Hi, this is my son. He wanted to say hello. And I wanted to let you know about the differentiated instruction lesson plan that's due this week. So I had said that it was a simple week, and I was traveling and just wasn't even thinking about the differentiated instruction lesson plan being due on October 25th, which is Sunday night. So I am working really hard right now to grade your culturally relevant and responsive.
The chair is moving.
Kind of. I'm just paused it so that I could say. Okay, so I'm working really hard to get your culturally relevant pedagogy lesson plans graded. As I said, I was traveling, so I'm just a little behind on things right now. But anyway. Your differentiated instruction lesson plan is due October 25th by midnight. There are at least 3 ways that you can differentiate for your students. You can differentiate by content, by process, or by product. So by content, that can be different texts. You can use text complexity levels, like using News ELA to have the same text but at different levels, or you can have different texts that are at different levels. And you can also use auditory or visual information in addition to a text, or the content can be differentiated by interest. So there's 2 ways we think about differentiation: by student readiness and by interest. So you can differentiate the content by interest as well as what they're academically prepared to handle. By process, varying the length of time it takes to complete the lesson or activity or product. Develop group tied to the student's learning goals. So if that can be based on readiness, or it can be based on interests, or you can give students choice to work alone or in partners or in small groups. I must say, though, that for this lesson, I really want to look at the more complex ways of differentiating. Allowing students choice is good practice for differentiation, but it doesn't really require a lot of thought or intention or planning on the teacher's part. What I want to see in the lesson plan in order to get an A+ is that you are differentiating by some reasoning besides just saying, I'm going to let students choose whatever they want. And then by product. So when I was in college getting my bachelor's and master's degree, multiple intelligences was all the rage. And so we always were charged with creating differentiation by multiple intelligences. So saying if they're musically inclined, then they could create a musical performance that carried the theme of the novel. And so that's one way to think about differentiating products.
And surfing Pikachu.
And then the objective will be the same. So they're all learning the same standard course of study, and your objectives are marking those short-term learning goals that you're setting for your students for that lesson. I also wanted to clarify that a lesson plan, it can be your actual like bell to bell. If you teach 58 minutes, it could be those 58 minutes, but I'm not really interested in you just submitting a lesson plan. What I'm looking for is differentiation. So if you can just give me the objectives and the activities and the assessment that relate to the differentiation, I don't necessarily need to see that you are passing out yearbook order forms for the first 5 minutes of class or something like that. Okay, so a lesson can be 30 minutes, a lesson can be 58 minutes, a lesson can be 3 days. And I have provided you a template, which you can use, but you do not have to use. In the template, I have put at the top objectives. You can use the students will be able to as your prefix. I know some of you are moving into the I can language, the student-friendly language, so you can use either or. depth of knowledge level, and then the state standard. So if you are assessing it in this lesson, you're assessing their learning of that standard, then it goes here. If it's just you're introducing this standard, or you're developing this standard, or it relates tangentially to this lesson, then you can put it here if you want to. Enduring understanding goes beyond these 58 minutes to what do students really need to know in the real world. And essential question, using an inquiry stance for learning. What are they trying to investigate? All right, the introduction of the lesson, the learning activities, what you're going to do for differentiation, the assessment procedures, what you're going to do for differentiation, closing and review. Maybe you will, maybe you will not have differentiation at this point. And then alignment, just this helps you to see, okay, this is the standard. This was my objective that I wrote that we're going to cover this day in this amount of time that I'm expecting students to do. And this is how I'm going to assess their learning so that I can tell if they learned it or not. Assessment can be informal, where you're walking around the room monitoring understanding. It can be formal, such as a quiz. All right, so you do not have to use this template, but you are welcome to. Also, if you want to add accommodation or modification, those are in regards to IEPs, and they're a little bit different than differentiation. So if you want to include accommodations or modifications, you can add a column or a row or whatever makes sense for you. So I look forward to seeing these lesson plans. And you are on your own to find a peer to exchange. Some of you did not submit in time for your peer, and that left them in a hard situation. So I'm going to let you find a peer in the class that maybe you've already worked with and you know that they're as conscious as you are, and you can exchange lesson plans, and then you can submit your final one here for me to look at. All right, let me know if you have any questions or any problems, comments, suggestions. I'd love to hear them. Thanks. Bye.